Hi, it's Andy.
Hi, it's Dave.
Hi, it's Kirk.
Welcome to the A.D.K channel. We're going back to a band we haven't checked out for quite a while today, but it is a band we have at least checked out once before. So, without further ado, let's go check it out. That's your first 30 seconds. Sorry, guys. We have to make our initial impressions on our first 30 seconds. Andy.
Depending on my mood, if this was on like a playlist or something, I'd either skip it because it's not grabbing me straight away because there's nothing there to grab anybody, is there? Or I might continue just to see what's coming next. But difficult to really give you much there so far. The city shots are a good intro to a video. That's quite nice, but not a lot musically going on.
No. Yeah, it's very ominous. It feels like they're trying to be quite evil, dark, and ominous with that particular guitar tone. It's trying to be eerie. It's trying to be dark, but it's difficult when our attention span 30 seconds in. You want some sort of hook. So the intros are always kind of key. So knowing that this song is just over 6 minutes long, they're gonna have a longer intro. But sometimes I always think about whether or not could you not have shortened the song by having a shorter intro? Do you really need to have these long 1 minute long intros and a 1 minute long outro? You could easily shorten those down and make the song feel just as well and get to the point of it. But it's interesting, but not enough that I would have probably skipped this if it had been on a random play. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it does go though. Kirk?
The intro reminds me of Loco by Coal Chamber, so that would put me off straight away.
Yes.
Forgot
about that.
I think, yes, I understand bands wanting to be atonal and find dissonant chords, but this is just so simplified, isn't it? It just doesn't work. But I'm trying to read the language of the graffiti on the walls to work out which city they're in. They're clearly tourists in a European city, I would say here. I can't remember the name of the band, but I'm expecting this to really pick up.
I said Prague. I've never been. That's just a random shout.
My guess would have been Prague.
It looks like a European city, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Go on, then.
Go on, then. Let's see what goes on for the rest of it. Okay, so let's give us a first point. I'm trying always to look for these pause points where if it's like at the end of a chorus or something, and it's hard to work out with this song where it's a chorus or if it's I can't get a natural flow of what is verses and what is a chorus. It just seems to all be just parts transitioning. So it's a little bit tricky, but yeah, let's get some additional updates on how people are feeling about this track so far. Andy.
The bass is very unusually high in the mix, which is not a bad thing. It's just not something you hear very often. Not a huge fan of the vocals. I like the style of the video, what they're trying to portray. You know, lots of great shots of the city that they're in. We think Prague, but there's sort of some sort of story where the guy's being pursued by somebody, some sort of ethereal creature, and it's unusual for like a band of this nature to be doing the performance section in an indoor skate park. You know, that's sort of safe for the skater rock bands, but. Yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. Like I say, vocals aren't quite to my taste. Suits the music, but yeah, I'm trying to place the band because it's not Death Vomit, it's not the Who, and it's not those old guys. That really sort of sludgy doom band with the old guys in the traditional sort of Japanese or Chinese garb. So I don't know who this is, but yeah, I'm quite liking it so far.
Yeah, so I haven't heard this one, this particular track. So a lot of the time with the videos I sometimes pull up on here, I'll have heard the song because I think it's a good one for us to do as a group. But this one I hadn't heard. Yeah, vocally I can understand. I mean, he's still quite guttural, but there's a little bit of a raspiness to the guy's voice. So it's like he hasn't quite got that power to round out the vocal. So it's when he's trying to be heavy, it sounds like he's being a heavy vocalist that's got a bit of a chest infection at the same time. I don't know how best to put it, but it's not quite there vocally. But I actually enjoy it because I can actually clearly hear what he's singing about. So I can hear the tonality of the voice is not so aggressive that you're like, I have no idea what you're saying, mate. There's just you've completely destroyed your vocals. Reminds me a little bit of bands like Death and Obituary, especially like the most recent Obituary album. There's definitely some riffage in there that kind of reminds me of some of the tracks off of that. So I quite enjoyed it from that point of view. And I really like the imagery of the video so far. I mean, great if they going somewhere on holiday as a band, maybe they're out there touring and thought, while we're here, we'll shoot a video, which makes sense if you've got the opportunity. Kirk?
Yeah, I visited Prague in 2019. That's definitely where this is filmed now. I recognize some of the cathedrals and monuments and the cemetery. Two things that stand out for me. One, they've gone for that Ross Robinson Sepultura Roots production. As Andy said, the bass is unusually high in the mix. Two, I like how the band members, I think they've watched that Beastie Boys video, Sabotage, where there's that paranoia that someone's following you when you're acting on screen. So they've inserted that into the video as well. I didn't hear much death in there. And Dave, the band Death, that is. I agree. You could probably hear some Obituary in there, but that's because Obituary are quite an influence now on hardcore bands, aren't they? To the point where sometimes with the vocals, are they hardcore, are they death metal? It's hard to tell. The riffs are probably a bit too primitive for me, but I agree. I still like the song. I think those vocals are powerful as well. They are quite eviscerating. So because they could fall out of tune at any moment, I think it gives it an added grit and integrity. So that certainly doesn't put me off the way that he's approaching the microphone to express himself in this song.
Quick question on that one. So you talked about the riffs being primitive, because I listened to these riffs and compared them to the Guilt Trip video that we did before. I would say these have got more interest in their style than the ones on the Guilt Trip ones. The Guilt Trip ones were fast, but they were just sort of stuff. Whereas this one had down, especially that first riff of the song. There was definitely more of a melody to the riff. So is it because it's slower that you think it's...
Possibly, yeah. Actually, to be fair, there's one thing. Do you know when that bass comes in? It's almost like the guitars are having a conversation with that bass, aren't they? Because that's more prominent. I think
there's a bit of playback.
A note behind. I don't hear much technicality in this, whereas with Guilt Trip, I heard some really fast pull-offs, and scale fills and pinch harmonics, which we've not heard in this yet. This has got more. I'd say this probably has more groove to it, though.
Yeah. Okay. Let's keep going. It's Andy's favourite. It's a fade out.
Long fade out as well, isn't it?
Yeah. 45 seconds of fade out this video.
I think it's going to reprise.
No, I think it's just going to really long fade out to black. And it goes to black for the ending.
Oh, Burgerkill. That's
Burgerkill. One of our very first.
That was one of our earliest. An Effigy was the one we did with the orchestra with them. This is the first one we've actually done, which was like a non... Because we obviously did their one, which was an orchestral version of a song. Killchester, I think it was called. So yeah, Burgerkill.
Still a terrible name.
And the song's... See, this is it. So the song's called Superficial. But that makes no sense in the context of the video.
Yeah,
I forgot.
I don't
isn't
think
that hooded robe deaf? That's what that makes me think of, is deaf.
I don't think you can expect a literal interpretation every time, though, for a video.
Yes, you can. You can. You don't get it.
Frustrated by this, don't you? Me and Andy don't. We're not bothered. You have something abstract in there so you can...
Well, hang on. Let's just say if they were playing a performance video, then I'd be okay with it. But who's this fucking hooded figure that looks like Death chasing them around? What's that got to do with Superficial? That makes no fucking sense.
It doesn't have to. We need to do a video, guys. I've got a cool idea. A hooded figure chasing us around Prague. Nobody's going to say, oh, what's that got to do with the title Superficial?
Yes, there is. I'm going to say it. I'm going to fucking say it.
Because he's a video director. Me and Andy do not have these anguish concerns about...
That will just piss me off. I won't want to watch the video. Or maybe I'll want to watch it more to try and understand the concept now of what the video was trying. Was it being really clever, and it's a much deeper video that you have to watch multiple times and get the lyrics out, and then you really understand all the nuances? Or are they just fucking with me, and then they're just basically doing something completely random that has nothing to do with the song title?
Option 2.
Anyway, Andy, overall thoughts?
Overall thoughts, in its entirety, I think I probably really enjoy the track. There's a few negatives. I mean, the guitar tone on that solo that sort of started that last section that we played was very, again, sounded a bit out of place. I wasn't particularly a big fan of that, but the sort of the musical passage after that particular solo, I thought was really good. Really enjoyed that. The vocals, I think they're adequate at best. You know, it's almost like they've had to get someone in, or you know, I don't like dissing anybody, you know, who produces music. You know, I don't want to be too critical, but it just seems like he wasn't quite up to the job. He's just been drafted in to sort of fill a role in the band. But you know, I don't want to be too critical on that. There's a shot, Kirk. I don't know if you noticed, and Dave, the sort of nighttime, sort of like the nighttime shot where the guy's in the street and then he sees the figure and he turns around and runs. Yeah, that reminded me of the video that you produced and directed, starring ourselves.
Oh yeah, she's coming.
Yeah. Where's all written down? Can't even read my own writing, but yeah, I think in its entirety, I'd really enjoy the track. Just not a huge fan of the vocals. Oh yeah, another thing I was going to say, there's no sort of recognised song structure. You know, you found it difficult finding, you know, a pause point at the end of a particular verse. There's a lot thrown in there, and you know that's to their credit. You know, they've gone away from the usual verse chorus, you know, format. I don't know if that's indicative of their material, but overall, I enjoyed the track and the video as well. Was absolutely fine for me. You know, it doesn't need to have a story that you need to dissect and relate to the lyrics. It was just some cool imagery for a music video for their latest release. That's how I'm looking at it.
Okay, for me, I actually liked the visuals of the videos. If I don't try to sort of dissect what the meaning of the video is, I like the video. I thought it was shot very well. I really like the live performance elements they did. I like the moving around. They've used the space really well. The black t-shirts on the white background of the ice ring or hockey ring, whatever it is they were playing on, or skate park, what you said. It's that white and black contrast was really good. The flickering, I loved the flickering and the tempo. So when they were flickering back and forth between different images, so just really well shot there. I actually like the vocals. Not my favourite style of vocals, but within that style, because again, I can kind of understand what he's trying to get away with. I liked what I would call the chorus section, because it was the one that was repeated the most often. If you took the vocals out, it sounds like Kill Switch Engage. It's a Kill Switch Engage, and you're like, okay, so you're doing kind of metallic hardcore, metallic or metalcore, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, really liked that sort of riffing. I liked the guitar tone on the solo because it was different. I thought it stood out and made it a little bit more interesting. It was almost like they were trying to make it sound like a guitar playing on a harpsichord. It was weird. It was kind of interesting for me. I don't know if I'd listen to a whole album of that, as we've said before on multiple things, but for that one time, I was like, actually, this is kind of different, and it wasn't like a traditional shreddy solo. He was playing some interesting melody passages on the solo. And the outro, where he was doing like that clean vocal thing, didn't really suit his vocal style. But it really did remind me of some of the clean stuff that Burton C. Bell did with Fear Factory. You know, that tone where you're like, is he off key or isn't he? It's hard to work out, but you kind of go, Burton C. Bell, he was mostly off key whenever I heard it, or he sounded like he had a cold. But Burton C. Bell always sounded like he was nasal as fuck. Or he's singing like some phlegm at the back of his throat. But that's what that kind of reminded me of kind of some Fear Factory. So you can really hear the influences of bands like Kill Switch Engage and Fear Factory in this band, and even Obituary. So you could probably go back through the DNA and work out where the original route is. But you can hear the bands that these guys have listened to, definitely in this track. Overall, yeah, I like the track. Kirk,
there's nothing reductive about this band. Just remind me, are they from Malaysia or Indonesia?
I'm going to get this wrong. They're either from Malaysia or Indonesia. I can't remember.
In the past, you've said, you know, sometimes they're a few years behind in terms of the music that they're listening to. Not at all with these. I think they're quite forward thinking. They're definitely onto something unique, the way that they're using the bass guitar in the mix. I liked the vocals, even those towards the end. I know where you're coming from, Andy. He's clearly not a trained vocalist, but I thought he made the best of a limited range when he tried to go in a cleaner direction, and it still had a lot of grit behind it, didn't it? Do I feel like an idiot now? Because when we stopped it last, I was saying, yeah, the guitar's a bit primitive. And then they play this wonderful solo, which reminds me of Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine, the effects that he uses on that first album. And you're right, actually, Dave, then it did start to sound a bit like Death and Chuck Schuldiner. So I really appreciate how this band start this song a bit like Sepultura, Roots era, even Against era. And then like you said, Andy, as well, there's no discernible song structure on first listen, but it doesn't alienate you either. So I was really surprised from the guitar solo onwards. I think the song just got better and better. And that cold chamber type loco intro didn't annoy me when they recycled it towards the end, because listen to the drums and bass and how they were really pushing that rhythm forward. So I'm pleasantly surprised by this band, and I think that they could be potentially discovering something unique in their own sound, and maybe the next record they might do that. They might already have done this on the album this is from, but yeah, I think I said last time with Burgerkill, but I definitely would listen to this, because that is far better than I was expecting that song.
Okay. Well, there we go. That is our review of Burgerkill and Superficial. Now, if you like this video, please do like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on another video sometime very soon. Take care.